Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. Again, if you want to find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's two Z's, two R's, guys, on Bizzarro. There is another Justin Bizzarro out there, and he is in Australia, and it's clearly not me, but I can see that there's mistakes being made recently, which I find humorous. But anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you looking me up, seeing what I do and stuff, but that's a different one than me. So it's two Z's, two R's. You can also find the podcast on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. You can find Gorilla Brave, guys, on all social platforms, plus online at gorillabrave.love. Everyone should be more than informed about Gorilla Brave by now. It is out there for you guys. You guys asked for it as we built the platform of the podcast. You wanted more educational resources. You wanted me to facilitate networking. You wanted me to connect everyone because those are the things I'm good at. You wanted the podcast to be more. It wasn't my vision for the podcast. I followed what everyone wanted, the audience, as it grew around the world. So that's what we're giving to you guys. Okay, you get those educational things through the blogs and the Instagram. And then everything else is stacked on top of it. And you guys, if you have questions, you can email engage@gorillabrave.love. With that being said, I have Stefan of the Saucy Rascals from Long Island and Tampa. We're going multifaceted here. We'll see which location makes the title on this episode. It'll be a coin toss. But how are you doing today, Stefan?
Doing great, Justin. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about your story. Let's talk about your beginnings all the way up to starting a sauce company because, I don't know your background yet fully, but getting into consumer packaged good, particularly in acidified foods, is not easy.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's definitely my passion project. I work in kind of finance and financial technology, and this was sort of something that was brewing in the background. Started with more of the fascination of long and slow, large format meat smoking. And one year in 2017, while living in Port Washington on Long Island, I entered a barbecue charity competition that a local store was doing for the community. And it was a ribs and chicken contest. And we entered and we needed to make our own sauce. I was like, I'm not going to use a store-bought sauce. Let's make some barbecue sauce. So my boys were 5 and 7 at the time, and we were kind of messing around with the recipe, and they were there helping me mix that first ever batch. And we entered the contest. We had some sauce bottles on the side, and people were tasting it, and they said, this is really good. Like, what is this? And I kind of tried to explain, yeah, we do something together. Well, we came in first place ribs out of 12 teams that year. And a few folks were joking with me saying, you should try to bottle this stuff. And I said, I don't think so. Fast forward to the second year we entered, same sort of setup, 2018, entered the contest, made a little bit more, tweaked the recipe, won again. And I started to consider bottling this thing and literally just kind of bought larger format stuff from warehouses and industrial sort of restaurant supply places and messed around with it with no brand, no label, no nothing. So that was the beginning.
Are you, just out of curiosity, because you're doing this yourself, are you hot prepping and bottling? Or are you cold prepping and bottling? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, the first rounds back then, we were hot prepping. It was kind of getting to a temperature, letting it cool, bottling it in bottles that no longer are my format. As we fast forward throughout the journey, I've outsourced production to co-packers, and the co-packers are running their process through with machinery and filling and doing, 10,000 bottles a day if we need to do runs.
Of this. Okay, let's talk about the background besides food. Let's talk about the financial piece. Why'd you get into that? The calling there, because I want to anchor it because I already picked up on something here that maybe you don't know, but I want to pick up an anchor for the audience as well as you. So let's talk about your financial background, why you got into it, sort of what led to it. And you're from Long Island, so I've got to imagine you didn't move to Florida until more recently. So let's talk about that a little bit as well, because growing up in Long Island or in the New York City area does have impact and influence, particularly from a food standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a mixed generation, first generation kind of guy, right? Dad's from Cyprus, mom's from Montreal. Lots of food influences throughout my life. And I think as you look back at our story, most vivid memories are Greek Easters where we would roast a whole lamb, and it was that man food fire thing that just kind of was, I don't know, very very carnivore and very just fun, and that kind of like took off into something else, and I graduated from Albany, went to Deloitte Consulting, was a consultant for many years, then went to London Business School, lived in London for many years. I literally traveled the world through my 20s, and I pretty much hit every continent, and food was basically my culture. So for me, when I go to different places, I check out the food scene. I check out the kind of the drink scene. I obviously check out cultural other things. But food is my culture. And I feel like that's always been something that I don't know, it's what I've been really about. And I think when you look at people who go to different locations for art or for, I don't know, gardening or other things, there's food and music are the two things that really drew me out, right? So
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm going to expand upon this just from an audience standpoint. And I'm going to ask a question here before I go down it. What did your parents do for a living?
yeah, my dad was a very creative guy. He's a trained artist, abstract painter. He came to New York in the 60s and became a school teacher for 35 years. He taught gifted and talented children, and he taught languages, art, and humanities. My mother also was a teacher. She was a French teacher, so she taught her late native language on Long Island for another 30 years. So I grew up in an educator's household, and I wouldn't say they were entrepreneurs as such, but I think certainly creative. And I think that, I don't know, I lended itself to me exploring various different, avenues. I was probably an outlier in the context of I was always interested in business. I was always interested in money. I was always interested in how you create something and sell it. So I think I got that from somewhere, but not necessarily directly from my parents.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that happens here is you have an interest in things. Why the financial piece? The parents are educators. Did you ever have interest in being an educator?
Yeah, to be fairly honest with you, I feel like what I do, I'm a manager of people who run really large accounts. So I do feel like part of my job is to educate my teams on how we better manage those accounts. So I'm not, finance is a big topic. I'm in financial technology. We provide software and services to some of the largest asset managers in the world, and I run some of our biggest accounts. So it's a little bit different than a pure play accountant. I'm not an accountant. I would never call myself an accountant. I would call myself a person who's good with people, understands technology and problems, and understands how to service, day to day, week to week, month to month engagement with senior resources.
Yeah, I'm gonna just one of the hardest things to teach a human to do is to teach another human. Some people have a natural skill for it. Some people, in your case, you grew up in a household to it. I think it's a superpower, a seed, something God planted in you naturally that by your environment has grown. I can feel it in your energy. And the thing is being an entrepreneur for so long, you learn to read energy a lot. And energy is, for me, is not only you are an entrepreneur, but you're an entrepreneur in the sense that if it were me and I were grabbing you into my organization, I already can tell by your energy, I would put you in places to learn things for a short period of times, have you excel at that thing, teach everyone else, and then move on to the next thing we're growing into. It's interesting because you have this creativity, this artistry in the way you look at things, but yet you're anchored in a very, what I would call standard operating procedure type position. Would that be an accurate statement?
I think you're a good reader of people as well.
So let's talk about this because there is this breaking of a mold. Okay. You're obviously grew up in a creative household. Money is important. We all, and business minded entrepreneur, we have the drive to make it. Sometimes it's that this is not enough. Sometimes it's that don't want to work for someone. Sometimes it's I have this feeling inside of me and it's not being fed. And if I don't feed it, it's just going to get bigger and left unfed for the rest of my life. So there's a couple ways that look at this. For you, you started messing with sauces. It became something that you liked. You've taken it a step further. You're making an investment at this point when you go to the store or you go to a restaurant equipment store. I used to own a few. And you're making that investment. That equipment's not cheap.
Yep.
right? So talk to me about this, because this is a leap from something that you're comfortable in, something that you've been doing for a very long time, to now I'm going to take a risk.
Yeah, I agree with how you phrased it. I think everyone goes through life doing what is needed to be done to ensure that, lifestyle and family is cared for. And I think that is the situation. But I enjoy my day job, but there was a creative side of missing probably in the way that I kind of started this business. I mean, like I said, cooking and I did catering for hundreds of people as well during kind of COVID, which is another story we could talk about. But like I was always big in the big format cooking thing. The sauces kind of accompanied that. The sauces became a brand. People really enjoyed the original barbecue sauce that I started, which was, again, that was like product number one. And we have six products now. And I kind of just kept going with it. And I wouldn't give up. And again, we could talk about the brand and how the brand started and the creation of the faces, but I'm someone who chipped away and chipped away and chipped away, and it was a bit of an itch that I was scratching and scratching, and like here I am. I think that as I've gotten to a scaling point, I've started to realize that this is no longer a hobby. This is a little bit more of a business, and I've got to probably kind of change my approach just in certain ways. And I would say I've had some successes and I've had some failures really at the end of the day. And I'm still navigating what it looks like on a scaling term when real dollars have been invested, as you kind of rightly put.
Let's talk about starting the business, creating it. You decide you're going to make it a business. The leap that's there, bottling, finding glass, sizes. You talked about 6 different recipes, characters. Let's lay it on thick. Take as much time as you want. It's your show. I don't record for another many hours today, so I have a break, but it's your guys for the show. So I really want to dive into this because I think what you're doing here is very important, and I want to anchor it to the beginning of our conversation. So let's talk about developing the brand, the logos, the bottles. How do you figure it all out, the recipes? And then you mentioned characters. So let's talk about all of that.
Sounds good. Yeah. So for me, the real tipping point was in 2022, I feel like 2021. Sorry. I left my employer for 14 and a half years, and it was a handshake situation. There were opportunities. There was a merger happening. I was a reasonably senior person, and I took a year. I took a year off. I took a year off, but I was happily paid during that year, so I had some luxuries. So for me, that was the year when I spent pretty full time on this. Like I went from I'm making it myself in some commercial kitchens with some pots to how do I scale this thing? What do I need to do to change? What bottles? I had old bottles. I had to change the entire format. So we also worked on net new product development. I had a chef friend of mine who helped me kind of work through my idea. So again, started with Original Barbecue. Original Barbecue was a Kansas City base, but I tweaked it with a few other ingredients. I fell in love with Hatch chilies. Hatch chilies are from New Mexico. Loved them and fell in love with them, and they're part of our sauce. I incorporated a bit of bourbon into our sauce, again, so another wonderful flavor. And I included tamarind paste in my sauce for the sourness. And I think those three elements, oh, and a bit of chocolate, actually. There's a slight hint of cocoa in there. So that was the kind of the baseline of barbecue sauce. The other sort of principle was we don't use high fructose corn syrup. That's never been part of our deal. And it's one of the reasons why I kind of also started this, because when you look at the back of bottles, there's just a lot of stuff with not so nice things in it, right? And I think that was kind of what we were looking at. So 2022 was a pretty big year for me in terms of, hey, this is a hobby, to how do I figure out how to scale this? Started speaking with suppliers like crazy for bottles. I ended up with a plastic bottle. Actually, it's a highly recyclable plastic squeeze bottle that looks like glass. It was heat retainable, so there was a heat element to it that was important for hot fills. Went through a lot of. I mean, I spent months trying to nail down the bottle first and foremost. When I nailed down the bottle, that led me down a path where the bottle producer connected me with a co-packer in New York. Co-packer is a third generation barbecue business, which was right up my alley. They have a restaurant, but they also created a bottling facility. And I had a really good connection with them. I felt their energy was great. And we are the ones who ended up partnering in the end to create the first batches, kind of larger scale production. So when you look at that journey, it was a really important year to take a year of not having a real job, so to speak, and being able to concentrate. original barbecue was tangy and sweet with a bit of heat. We pivoted to a spicy barbecue, tangy and sweet with extra heat. In that spicy barbecue, the only difference between the two is we add Carolina Reaper, which is one of the hottest, if not the hottest pepper in the world, into that product. It's a tiny bit. It's not a lot. The point here, Justin, was my sauces are flavor first, not heat and kill you just because I know how to put a lot of pepper into something. That doesn't really do much for me. So I focus on flavor and balances of flavor across all of the product ranges. So original barbecue and spicy barbecue were kind of established. I then kind of started thinking about, hey, what if we then broadened out to not just being barbecue sauce? What if we did for condiments? When I first made the first batch of sauces, I actually deconstructed all of the components of barbecue sauce. And when you do that and try to do them manually, it becomes a real pain in the you know what. I made my own ketchup first, not too hard. Made my own mustard, made my own Worcestershire sauce. That's tricky. Made my own steak sauce, and I started mashing those together. That was like really, really early days. Interestingly, the ketchup, people who came and tried it, I had lots of friends who loved coming over. They were like, "This ketchup's phenomenal." So I was like, "All right, let's add ketchup to the line." You know, Heinz owns it, but let's add it because it's cleaner. There's no high fructose. It's a simple recipe, but the flavor and the brightness of the tomato is really nice. So ketchup became like a third item. Then I said to myself, well, this chicken company that everyone loves has the most amazing sauce, you know, Chick-fil-A. And I said to myself, hey, we could make something like this. So mayonnaise, love mayonnaise. People either do or they don't. We created a mayo barbecue concept. So it's a mashup between a mayonnaise that we make, the barbecue sauce that we make, and then we added some honey and some mustard to create our mayo barbecue. So I had a fourth sort of product. And then last two that came up, well, hot sauce was kind of a fifth one, right? That I kind of came up with my chef friend, and we played around with pineapple juice meets scorpion pepper meets lemon juice meets honey. Again, no added preservatives, vinegar as well. Sorry. So the acidity is high, whereby it's kind of a naturally preserved product for what I do because of our acidity level, and we had it signed off by the authorities that look at where that landed in terms of acidity. So I take acid, mix it with the sweets, mix it with the heats to create, you know, brighter flavors and longer shelf life flavors without having to add too many or any added preservatives. So that's an important other principle. So that's kind of our fifth product, was kind of mostly, in fact, my kind of ownership in terms of playing around with recipes, along with, again, some folks that I knew who were local to me. When I got to the co-packer, I was kind of in my mind, I'm always thinking about, like, how do I think about how we're going to sell the product? I had a 5-pack concept some years ago, and I somehow was like sort of fixated on the Saucy 6-pack. The 6-pack being a play on words between, you know, a 6-pack of your favorite beer and also a 6-pack jokingly around, you know, me not necessarily having a 6-pack, but like wanting a 6-pack just to kind of enjoy and eat my way to happiness. So sort of a play on words of the Saucy 6-pack. So I needed a sixth product. And the more I was speaking with distributors and retailers, teriyaki has become a rage. Like, it's become bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think if you look at the likes of Bachan's has really done very well. I've been following them for years. I thought teriyaki would be great, but I also started falling in love with black garlic. And black garlic is just this really nice fermented umami flavor. It's expensive, but I looked at it as a premium kind of product that if you took the teriyaki component, you melded in that black garlic flavor, well, we could have a winner here. So I worked with the co-packer on that particular product to develop a recipe. And it was the first collaboration I did with those guys. And I think it was a very interesting experience, again, for me to work with, let's call it professionals who have laboratories who do this stuff, and work with them to develop a product. And I have to tell you, I actually think it's one of the biggest winners of my lines at the moment. And I'm finding that the reaction's been very, very strong, and it's a pretty niche market. So the evolution kind of went from, again, making some stuff off your stove, to renting out some commercial kitchen, to putting it in an old bottle and selling it without a label, to creating a line of 6 products, you know, more formally produced with the right labels, etc. Now let's talk about the brand itself, the Saucy Rascals. I don't know if you had to read it on our website, but the Saucy Rascals are my two sons, the 5 and 7-year-olds who actually made that first batch. The S is for Sebastian. He's my 5-year-old. He's the little kid on the left, and the rascal is Raphael. He's the 7-year-old at the time. They're a little older now. He's the face on the right. And I looked at the two kids and I said, first of all, yeah, you're saucy and you're little rascals. I literally got the mohawks that summer. We got mohawks. They had long hair but really short sides, really cool looking mohawks. I took an iPhone picture of them up against the wall, did some funny faces. And I reached out into my neighborhood and I said, is anyone the designer? Like, I'd like to speak with you. Met up with a gentleman who was an Australian gentleman who I happened to be married to an Australian, so the connection was nice there. And we went through the process. And yeah, and it was like, we met up and I was like, this is kind of cool, small world. We went through the process and he said, well, what are we thinking? Like, is it a playful one? Is it a serious brand? I said, it's totally playful. It's got to be playful. It's got to be fun. I want to think about the little rascals, but we're the Saucy Rascals. And I swear, I think he nailed the logo. I think it was the first time I saw it. I was like, this is pretty bang on. There wasn't too many edits, to be honest, when I looked at the logo. We wanted a simple white kind of label with a red popping sort of stamp mark with the faces. And really what we're talking about, it's a family brand, right? It's meant to be approachable. It's meant to be family oriented. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be better for you without high fructose corn syrup. And it's meant to provide flavor and, bring flavor to everyday meals. And again, when you look at our label, our tagline is an everyday sauce. Again, I was playing around with the Saucy Rascals. We're an everyday brand of products every day across different flavors. You should be able to use our products every day, not just for barbecues, not just for this. And I think that's it. That's it. It's a lot to kind of take in. I know I went a long way, but that's the journey that we kind of went through as we were developing the brand and developing our product line.
Yeah, I like this a lot. One of the things that I think that that you have here is the story is developing, and it's a very powerful one. We're gonna talk about it, but I want to talk about one thing first, particular, just because we brought it up. What we're seeing in the world, social media has helped a lot with this, guys. I'll call it a flattening, but it's allowing more food across more diverse cultures and ethnicities to be exposed to the world and combined together. That would be things like Dubai chocolate, red velvet at times before it was popular around the world, Nutella when it was only in Europe. These are examples, but we now see how big they are. These are why I want to focus them on a smaller side, black garlic. And I often get from people, oh, the trends, they're just trends, they're going to go away. Yeah, but what if they don't? Okay. And as an entrepreneur, I will tell you, I will be in capacity and practicing all the time on the trends, waiting for the one that does become the next Nutella that goes around the world, or the next red velvet. And though I don't like dyeing food, I think it's unnecessary. But anyway, the whole thing is, we have to look at these. That's why I spend so much time talking about trends. That's why I spend so much time, even in social media, guys, talking about these things, because they do matter and they do last, and businesses are built off of them. Okay. If I could tell you guys in America alone, not even the world, how many pizza businesses, entrepreneurs started during COVID doing backyard pizza out of their little thing, you guys would be blown away. That's why it matters to watch. Pizza got reinvented during COVID. It was a necessary food. It was easy. It could be delivered. It was safe. But so we look at trends. Hot sauce is one of those trends right now, guys. Everyone's like, oh, you go to the store, you see tens of thousands of them. There's no room. No, there's room, because we can see that by the number of options there are, that most humans do like hot sauce in some way, shape, or form, even if they don't realize it yet, because they haven't tried it. And so what's happening is sauce is no different than a tomato sauce that everyone loves. And so sauce is truly sauce in the way that is. So that's one of the reasons I spend so much time in sauces and hot sauces. It's why I was in food production and doing food for hospitals, long-term care homes, co-packing, all that. We got into acidified foods because the trend was happening. It's been going on since 2016. COVID just shot it out of a cannon. So let's talk about health a little bit. You mentioned healthy, not wanting high fructose corn syrup. Like, based on what happened, you were a little bit already reading a trend that's coming, right? Because while we were going healthy, we swung the opposite direction during COVID. You somehow picked up on, either it's in your own family or your own environment or your own core values, that you needed to clean up the recipes, because otherwise you would be trying to do it right now, right? To get to where the world's going, particularly in America. So let's talk about that a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about that health focus. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think, I would say I probably I get more conscious of it as I've grown older. Clearly, my wife certainly is more, I think, label reading, and I would definitely say, if you even look at the big name brands, right, that they've all started a movement towards no high fructose and cleaner products, and so I think it was a pretty obvious thing to me in a way. I also I don't love sweet, really sweet stuff. I mean, I'm not more sweet. I'm definitely more savory and spicy. And I do use molasses and some brown sugars and some honey in my products, but I try not to over sweeten them because I don't want the sugar values to be super high and become an issue in that respect. So yeah, I think high fructose, again, it's funny when you start looking at the economics of the business, and you look at the cost to produce bottles when you're not using those products, that's where it gets hard, right? That's where the business gets hard. It's pretty clear when you look at what it would cost if you did do something like a corn syrup or a high fructose corn syrup. Yeah, you could save a lot of money. And guess what? Large corporates, that's what they're doing. But I kind of put my foot down. Obviously, my price points are a bit higher as a result. I'm still a small business, but I do my best to try to, not worry so much about my initial years of margin and try to get the word out there, because I think that's more important to me right now than trying to recover every margin percentage that I can. With that said, I think healthy is the way. I don't think that people are looking to put more and more bad things in their body, and I really think the high fructose problem in America is a real one.
And I mean, I'm going to quick give a history. It'll take me 2 minutes, guys. But really, the reality is it came into the market, I think, late 70s, 80s, somewhere around there. And it's super sweet. It's concentrated. We produce it. We extrapolate it. It's made from corn, obviously. But it cheapens the product significantly. And when you're using extremely cheap syrup already, fractions of a penny lead to huge profitabilities. In Coca-Cola's case, in the 1980s, in 1 year, it led to a $75 million increase in profit, which a company at the time doing maybe $300 million in the 80s. We just have to think about this, guys. Coca-Cola wasn't the global phenomenon we think of today. That's a lot of money. Think about that. So that's why they did it. It was dollar decision. And the truth be told is that we had a lot of corporations and companies do it because it was a decision based on money, and it had not a single thing to do with the health of the human. Just going to be honest with all of you. And we are now, because of things like that, we can be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. Or we can be like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we did that. We now know that we're capable of it. And so that's the thing, and we are capable of making amends and reversing it. I think Pepsi buying Poppi is in a way starting to go in that direction, because as we're recording this, Poppi is getting bought for $1.95 billion. So in the audience, when I'm emphasizing you guys trends and stuff, this isn't just health food, locally sourcing, what's going on with egg prices, looking at labels. That isn't something of the past. That's something that's coming full swing back into the future. So let's talk about tying all this together, because I think one of the things I want to do for you is tie together this because I think there's a lot more to sauces and selling it for you. So I want to talk about, you start a brand, you start a product. How do you get it to market? How do you get people to buy it? How do you even get people to know about it? You've got 6 products. How do you now take the next steps?
Yeah, these are good questions, and these are some of the problems and challenges that I'm trying to work through as we speak. I mean, I've really only been, let's say, in my current production form for just about a year now, and it was a much smaller than it was then. It's still quite small. I'm not gonna sort of sugarcoat it, but I have warehouses now active. I have products that I send that are more my wholesale warehouse orders versus my retail. I'm connected through e-commerce in a way that's there. I am using Instagram and other media outlets better. I've hired some folks that help me with that. I've hired a PR firm to help me kind of connect and get samples out to food writers and bloggers and as such. So I think for me, that's the learning curve for me is every day figure out a way to get this product in front of someone. Like if I can get one a day, like that's my goal. Get one more person to try and or buy. I mean, I give a lot away too, Justin. I mean, I think the reality of where I am is that I am giving product out to people who might be able to talk about me because I appreciate the value of the network effect. And so that is the reality of a startup, right? Like I said, I don't plan on making money on this right now. I plan on figuring out how to break even, right, in the beginning years. And I think that's an important mindset to have that I think all entrepreneurs have to accept. So yeah, I think that's kind of the way I've been going about it. I have some cool video friends who help me out from time to time, but I think you're right. The biggest challenge, and I do use a distributor on Long Island who's helped me branch out to another 50 stores or so last year. I'm in about 100 stores up in the Northeast. Not too many yet in Florida. I'm trying to work that angle as well. But to get into big box stores, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. It's a crowded shelf. I have had some success certainly with small to medium size and one or two medium size to maybe even larger sizes up in the Northeast. But I do think we are a bit of a niche product still, as much as I think we have an opportunity to be more widely known. I think that comes with time, that comes with connections, that comes with money invested in, getting the word out.
I like this. Talk to me about what from your previous life, the financial background, the Deloitte, that type of work, the accounting, how has that helped you now? Let's talk about what's helped you now and then sort of things you've had to learn since because of being in a different business. Let's talk about those
Yeah,
values.
I think like I'm a pretty good networker. I think you hit the nail on the head of someone who takes stuff on, new topics on quickly and can figure out how to, I don't know, move that on to the next step. I have, I think, wisely used my network of people who have skills that I don't have to help me get to where I even am now. Now, I I wish I had more time in my week at times based on my real job and what I do here. I have my wife helps right a bit. I have a couple of people that I hire on an hourly basis or part-time basis. I don't have a full-time staff right now still, and it's something that I've been debating, but obviously there's a cash flow component to also, of how we're going to manage through that, right? So I've been a trained business person, at least working in corporate. Did my MBA at London Business School. I understand how to build the who, what, hows of a strategy kind of plan. But at the same time, when I take a step back and I look at what I've done, I'm not sure I've totally followed that methodology either, because I got down a product R&D path. I got down a brand, and I just kind of took this phase as a bit of a learning opportunity to say to myself, hey, it's very possible, Justin, that in 1 year's time or 2 years' time, I look back and I say, something, these 6 products out of the 6, there's really only 2 that make it. There's two that I feel like I should move forward with. The other 4, as cool as they were, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. And I have to probably look at that. And I thought the only way I'm going to really learn about what this is going to do is by taking this investment step of the money that I put in to build out to produce about 60,000 bottles, which is what I did, and sort of get to a point where I've tried. Okay. And yeah, okay. There's always a risk of losing, and I accept that risk. I think you have to actually try and actually look at the data to figure out where the trends are. And I think honestly, where I am right now, I do truly believe that the black garlic teriyaki is trending really, really positively because of that black garlic excitement. And I think the original barbecue sauce still stands the test of time. And I think the other four products are also good, but there are questions, right? And I think I am a realistic person to say, hey, is ketchup really going to work? As much as I get so much good feedback from ketchup, people love Heinz. Heinz wins. Heinz wins. Heinz wins. It's a hard one. So Kensington's tried this, right? So Kensington's story is amazing. They were in the ketchup business and they realized I can't do it. So they pivoted. They do mustards and they do mayonnaises. And guess what? They did really well. So I think that it's a great learning experience. I think that my time as a consultant and at business school and working in finance and working in technology, I think it's all situational experiences that I've been able to kind of take and build what I've got to where I've got right now. And I have a long way to go still. I still critique myself every day. I'm like, I'm not doing enough here. I'm not doing enough there. Part of it is time. Part of it is capital. Part of it is how much more do I want to invest right now to get to that next step. But like I'm at like a tipping point this year in 2025 to say, is this going somewhere or where's we're just going to stay more of a hobby project, if that makes sense.
Something about you, Stefan, is I think that would really connect your brand. I'm just throwing it out there. It's up to you, but your ability to teach even to a broader audience through social media about hot sauces in general, about health or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. I encourage that because I mean, the way you speak, I'm open to learning. I mean, I'm not necessarily learning with every word, but I am for some reason in a much more open state of learning. I don't know why. And I'm an energy person. I have to be very careful with it. People can drain it from me just as much as I can pick it up. But it's important. I think there's like a softness, an acceptance, God-given thing maybe, or a development because of your environment. But I think I'd really latch on to that. I think it's going to be your superpower. I don't know how it manifests or how it comes out in the world from you, but I'm just going to plant that seed. Another thing I'm going to talk about a little bit, in particular this case, I'll anchor it to the name of the podcast also, and I'll anchor it to you, is I think it is important in life to understand things. And I'm going to use the name of the podcast, Justin the Food Entrepreneurs, just came from growing up as a kid. I liked dancing in my family's living room in my socks. There was a wood floor, and I would spend hours upon hours like just dancing or listening to music, doing homework, whatever in this room. And I played soccer a lot, guys. So soccer was my thing, but I just gravitated towards music. So for some reason in this room, my parents had a record player, and I could only play their old records from the 50s and 60s in this room. That's all the music I could get at that time in the 80s. It wasn't a tape deck. I couldn't bring my CDs down. They just had a record player, and it's the only room in the house with the wooden floor that I could do this on. So I ended up listening to 50s, 60s music. So Jackson 5 as a young kid, you're like, holy crap, this guy was 11 years old and he's singing this right now. So it stuck. But one of the things we have to look at is it was the Jackson 5. They all knew Michael was a leader even as a young kid. However, then it became Michael and Jackson, the Jackson 5. Then it became the Jacksons. And when it became the Jacksons again, as they left Motown, Michael was caged. His creativity, his being seen as the leader was no longer looked at. Okay. And why was that? Because Michael Jackson's father never wanted one of the brothers to shine more than any of the others. He didn't want that for his family. He didn't want there to be jealousy and envy and all the problems that came with it. So he very much regulated it. Okay. What happens then under pressure? Someone creative becomes even pressure even in a creative environment. Well, they explode out of it. So yeah, Michael does Off the Wall in between these Jackson things. Off the Wall's a hit, all of these good things, right? But all of a sudden the pressure keeps building and Thriller album comes out, which changes the world of music. I think it sells like 90 million records or something in no time. It's a crazy number. I'm not sure that that's true, but whatever. The important thing that we have to look at here is under pressure, under our environments, we grow, things are forced out of us. In this case, what I want to focus on and what I'm trying to work on with Stefan and the audience is, hey guys, the reason you feel that you need to do something more if you haven't done it already is because we're called to do it. Okay. And what happens with entrepreneurs when our businesses aren't doing well, or we don't find inspiration in our business or motivation, or we can't get out of bed, those days that are tough? There's a simple thing, guys. The reason we're given and blessed with the ability to be entrepreneurs or even spend our money on a venture that may not even be making money right now is because we have to understand that we have been given a vehicle to do more. When we are given food in our heart as a business, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of energy and love that goes into it. There's a lot of things that we do. We communicate, we connect. We just talked about networking. Well, if someone's been equipped with networking, teaching, accounting skills, now they're being equipped with food service skills, specifically in acidified foods. He's also networking around and being equipped in what it takes to run a business, not be an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur. And that's a lot of people's journey too. It doesn't matter how we're equipped or God equips us. The fact of the matter is that we're equipped and it's on purpose. And we have to understand that during our ups and downs, I've had setbacks in life, guys. 24-year company, all of a sudden it's gone. No employees, no people, no vehicles, no food going anywhere, no farms to go on, no work to go to, no office to go to. Okay? Broken. But why does God do it? Because we need to go in another direction. Our purpose becomes greater. So if you have this calling and feeling inside of you, understand that it does take work. Why? Because if it doesn't have work and it's too easy, the test that we go through does not become the testimonial that becomes our story, which builds our brand. Okay. And everyone's like, oh, it's just a story that doesn't build our brand. But the parts of the story along the way are the very things that do build the brand. The ups and downs, the warehouses, my two sons are in my kitchen mixing sauce and Saucy Rascals comes out of my mouth. It's not an accident. Okay. So Stefan, let's talk about anything you want to talk about. Lessons, life, things you thought about for this show, where you are right now, maybe what's being called out of your heart. I want to give you the microphone for a little bit.
I appreciate it. Look, the story is about, I think you just kind of touched on it at the end. It's a story of a father and his two sons. That's what the story is. And we created something that's kind of cool and the brand is cute. And I think the products, they're high quality products. Like I'm biased, but I know what I put into them and I know the feedback I've received. So I know we make good products, right? How do you get folks to know about it? That's the hard part, right? It's a crowded market. I think that comes over time. It comes with networks. It comes with people talking with people like yourself, and it comes with investment. You've got to spend money in the right way. So I think that's an important part of what I'm trying to do. I'm also, the Saucy Six Pack is really a format that I am trying to get out there more. So I look at our business as very cyclical with holidays, right? We've got Mother's Day, we've got Father's Day, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, barbecuing. So what I try to pitch is gift boxes. The six pack is it's a cool little pre-printed gift box. It says time to get saucy on it. It's got all six products. It's the sampler. I do it as cheaply as I can, including shipping, because if I can get 6 out the door, it's better than me doing, onesies, twosies. That doesn't work really well. I look at that as my retail format. So I'm in the gift box business as much as I'm in the sauce business. That's the way I'm thinking about it now. And I've been partnering with other gift box companies. And I think that's really the angle that I'm kind of going this year. So Saucy Six Pack is something that, hey, Justin, if you're going to a barbecue, instead of bringing a bottle of liquor, give them a Saucy Six Pack. guess what? People will be happy with that. As alcohol is great, it's a great gift. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit the same old, right? So let's do something a little different. How do I get that message out? I think, sentimentally, a father and his sons. I lost my dad a few months ago, so he passed in January, and I'm kind of dealing with that right now. And I'm taking my two boys back to his home country in 2 weeks from today. I leave, and we're going for memorial service to his home country of Cyprus, where my DNA and everything started, right? In terms of the creative side, his artistry. He was a great cook, but he wasn't a recipe cook. He was what do we have in the kitchen type cook, and he would figure something out. I'm the same way. So I think emotional year for me in that respect. Partly, probably one of the reasons I feel a little behind myself with respect to my professional life and my career, this business. I'm dealing with a lot of fallout, obviously, after he passed, and helping my mother and my everyone, and grieving. So I think it's never been a bigger time for me in terms of like, can I get this thing moving? Can I tell that story about a father and his sons?
Yeah, and what a better time now, and as hardship, and I'm sorry about your loss, and definitely praying for you and your family tonight. I'll add it to my very long list of prayers, but I am intentional. But I want to talk about this a little bit again, and purpose, and just anchoring this for you. You are building a brand that is about you and your sons. What your father has given you in this time is the time to go foster that, take it to the next level. This Cyprus thing, this is a food adventure for you guys. Mm-hmm. And if you come back with a sauce or two different new sauces because of it, and you've recorded the journey for social media with your sons, because you are in the food game now and you're starting to take that adventure as a family and as a team, that is a big deal, and amongst hardship, what a blessing, honestly, and what a great thing, a seed to be planted in you and your wife to take that on, to allow it to happen. I should say, to lean into it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny. We are absolutely on a food journey when we were there, and I was speaking to my boys about it, and they're excited. So we want to learn some recipes from the old country. My family members are great cooks as well, and I'm like, good, let's go learn some cool stuff. So they're all excited, and I think that is absolutely part of what we're doing.
Awesome. Let's talk about finding you online. How do they order it? Where can they find it? Let's talk about that. Are you available internationally? Let's dive into all of that.
Yeah, international is a little bit tough right now, and I'm not really properly set up internationally, unfortunately. I mean, I have shipped to some locations, but I'm not really set up in that way. And there's some fees, import fees, all sorts of stuff. Nationally, absolutely. Website is www.saucyrascals.com. You can go direct there. We are on Amazon. There are opportunities to purchase through Amazon as well. We have also integrated a bit with Walmart.com, so it is available on Walmart.com. I have also a retailer kind of network that I work with that, I sell to quite a few smaller shops across America who are interested in, selling the product and getting wholesale prices. So I use fair.com for that, and Mabel, and some other applications. So that's direct website though is probably best bet. Doing a March Madness sale as we speak, so 20% off the entire site. Thought that was an appropriate thing as we're getting into warmer seasons. Certainly, I think again, cyclicality of the condiment business and the grilling season, which is still tied to what we do, is very much kind of happening now.
Yeah, I'm going to anchor a few things for the audience right here too. By the time this comes out, you guys have got Saucy Rascals has quite a long head start on you guys when I say this, and I'm going to just say it, is internationally, guys, American barbecue, American burger, stuff like that is exploding across the world, okay? Along with it is American hot sauce. So if you're in hot sauce, guys, and you're competing in America, I get it. I love the idea, but you're going to make a lot more money overseas. Okay, and figuring out how to get your product into an international market right now who is starving for American hot sauce and American barbecue, because we look at it as it's saturated here, but oh man, we haven't even opened up the world yet. And guess what? They want it because it's good. So it's one of the reasons I asked. The other thing is you are going to Cyprus. You could always ship some to yourself, see how that goes, or target it as a first country just to do a practice run through. Just out of curiosity, a dry run, what would it take, even though you don't need to spend any money, but you could definitely find out what it took to get product there since you are going there on the other side. I encourage that to anyone. Again, I get a lot of guys in the sauce and acidified food businesses are like, what do I do? And I'm doing all the farmers markets and I'm doing it. I get it. And I get it, that's what worked before. But right now, it is important to build locally. But right now, there's a world out there starving for your product. That's why there's so many of us here. There is the energy that it's needed. We need to look at it not so inside our human constructs and what's right in front of us and see that the world is out there looking for spicier flavors. I did a bunch of posts on Gorilla Brave about this, and there is a blog about it. So spicier products, but I don't necessarily tie it to hot sauce. So on this show, yes, the world is doing hot sauce. It's one of the reasons I did it in Georgia. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do it. It's because the port of Savannah is right there. It's 2.5 hours away from where we're located. It's just think about it, guys. If I'm making a big play like that in those days and seeing it like already that 2.5 years ago, and I did food in large markets and hundreds of millions of meals a year and healthcare and cross every diversity of food you can imagine, because you need to diversify diets and ethnicities based on cultures and all sorts of different ways for healthcare. And there's sort of demands on the way the food works, and menus are rotated seasonally 4 times a year. And where you source things from, it's totally different. But I will tell you, it's important for everyone to really, I'm not kidding around. And when everyone said there was no more room for fried chicken, guess what I did in 2000s? I leaned into fried chicken. Why? Because chicken waffles, Nashville hot chicken, it was all starting to submerge. And look, we have these total other industries in hot chicken. So I'm not here to hide it all for myself. I'm not here to try to make money all for myself, but I am here to help you guys and build industries and communicate that there are opportunities here. So if you are suffering or you're wondering or you've already built something and it's ready to scale, sometimes our systems are broken. Sometimes international systems aren't. So I'm going to plant that. Also, from a leadership standpoint, Stefan, that'll be my last question. I want to talk about leadership skills, core values, growing as a leader, being a leader in your family, plus modeling leadership for your 2 boys. All of that is sort of encompassed in this new venture. All of it's being brought to the forefront as you lead, and there's going to be losses along the way, and there's already acceptance that there's going to be financial, what I would call drainage before things go a positive, and that's just the way it is. It's about grit, not anything else, guys. I know everyone's like, it's about my product, it's about whatever. It's about grit. It's about learning the things you don't know. So if you're creative, you need to go learn the business part, because if you haven't learned the business part, by the nature of the world, your business isn't going to grow because you're not prepared for the growth. You're not going to accept it into your life by the nature of who you are, because subconsciously and you're holding yourself down that you don't have the skills. It's usually what it is, guys. It all rests in us. And so that's why I asked this question for you, because you have an ability to conquer these things. You're not really held back by much. So let's talk about leadership, leading your family, Stefan, as we close out.
Yeah, I think I would call myself firm but fair. I think that's an important, quality that I try to instill on my kids, certainly. I was just giving them the Sunday morning wake-up call of, need you to get up and start doing some stuff, kids. Here are the options. Either we do that and have a collaborative morning and we get some things done before you have some fun, or you start losing some privileges. Like those are your 2 options. We can debate them. It's your choice. Let's go. And guess what? Okay, Dad, be right there. Great. Thanks very much. I have to do a call with Justin, and I need some peace. So I think that was kind of like, I think in life, if you give people, if you're fair with people and you you try to put yourself in their shoes. And I think I have a pretty high level of empathy in that sense. And I think it's probably why I do well in my job. I represent a firm who has millions on the lines with clients. Those clients have their own issues, and I have to put myself in their shoes. And I think a good leader is able to do that while still protecting the house, right? And I think that's a balance, right, that you have to kind of have, certainly in the role that I play here, and certainly probably with my family. And look, I'm a pretty hardworking guy. I think there are days when I'm getting older now, so I'm starting to realize probably need to change my routines need to change. I'm a week away from my last year in the 40s, so I turned 49 next week, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know. 5 years ago, I felt a little different than I feel now. So like, I'm trying to like reorganize my own energy levels and the rest. And I think really it's about working hard, instilling a level of hard work and that sort of that's those sort of principles with my kids. I think is important. And life's busy. Managing this business has been challenging. I think we've had some successes. We've had some, again, not things that certainly haven't gone well. And I'm just trying to chip away, as you say. You just keep grinding. You keep grinding. You keep reaching out to people. You just don't know what's going to land. And I don't even think it's funny. I have friends who my networks are pretty. I don't know. They're pretty good. I have really strong networks in business, and I do think, Justin, if I'm really honest, I've been a little bit hesitant, probably, go maybe all in on this, knowing that I have a corporate job. Okay. And I'm just, that's exactly how I feel. And I think, and my corporate job knows I do this, by the way. It's a known thing. I had to actually tell them, and I filed it, and I worked for a pretty large, well-known bank. So like, it's all overboard here. It's all overboard. But like, I'm conscious of that, and I don't want to mix and match my professional career too much, I suppose. But at the same time, if I really wanted to go out there and, I don't know, put the afterburners onto this business, I have a pretty large network of people who probably would be interested to get involved. I'm just at that point where I'm still doing my due diligence on this phase, which I said earlier, which is like, what do I do? How do I do this on my own, with my own funding, with my own ways? What am I going to learn from this to then think about how I then put this into overdrive? But I have friends, again, who keep pushing me, like, go all in, do it this. I'm like, you know what? It's a lot, it's a lot to think through. So anyway, that's where I'm at.
I love this. It's funny. I was going to save this for a different episode. I wasn't sure, but I just pulled it up because you kind of touched upon it. And 3 days ago, I did an interview, guys, for Gorilla Brave, and it's because our membership has gone up 1,600% over the last 3 weeks. We're seeing huge upticks there because it's particularly internationally, because food entrepreneurs restaurateurs are trying to fill the gaps in their game to take their food businesses to the next level, or even we have some who are just starting. So they're really trying to take it to the next level. But I got asked a question on this interview. It's with a pretty big publication, and they asked me what in all of this, as I'm trying to build Chimpanzee University, which will be a program for a 1-year program online, 30 minutes every week, modules for kids 11 to 15 that either have parents that are in the food business, or wanting to get in the food business themselves and want to circulate it. There's a lot of skills that I will tell you, as a parent, when I was an entrepreneur, I didn't have time to teach my children, my stepchildren, or anything, because my business was so busy, and I wish there was the option to do things like this. Or even as my family, my parents were trying to transition businesses and all that, we had some legacy help in lawyers. It was expensive and whatever and things. And at the end of the day, I wish I would have had like a 2-year thing that I could have gone through with my family instead of paying the lawyers what they did. That would have not only helped us be stronger as a family, but helped us better transition anything and not have the mess that was the mess that it was. There's a lot of things out there. So there's all those things, but Gorilla Brave in its essence, guys, is just continuing education. It's keeping up with trends, keeping up with marketing, advertising, AI, on a weekly basis. One of the things that I think is hard as an educated human is that my education comes in lump sums sometimes. And while I read all the time, there's an MBA here, there's a Master's of Divinity I'm working on now, there was a bachelor's there. But instead, if there was a smoother ride as a food and beverage entrepreneur where I could be learning things an hour at a time every week for the rest of my life, and then anchoring it against books or anchoring against things I need to learn in my business, that would have gotten me a lot farther in 24 or 28 years now. Or if you really count when I started the lawnmower business at 7 years old, when my parents taught me about businesses and leasing tractors from them and paying them for gas and costs, and then what it meant to hire my friends, which I did. And then I did farms. Okay. And then we did eventually fruit and vegetable stands. So like it's important. So yes, I'm 11 to 15 years old. If I had my parents to teach me to be an entrepreneur and they instilled it in me, we need to be able to do that with our kids. If we have a kid that's curious about a lemonade stand, there should be the ability to go learn how to do it, at least in the basics. Okay. So this is my point. When they ask me a question, they're like, as in the 28 years you've been in business, so since I've been 18 years old, what are the two things I wish parents would have instilled in their children before they ever became employees of mine? It's a valid question considering we had thousands of employees over the years. God, the first thing I would say is first and foremost, love, whatever fashion that is and in core value form that is, not control. Love in that its basis is its most important thing. How to react in love versus react in anger, jealousy, whatever. Those are all emotions. But as parents, our lack of emotional intelligence is passed on to our children. And I think the only way to truly break that down is truly realize what we're doing because it suits us versus our child. And then understand that. And because when we get into business as parents, it benefits us as parents, but also as children, if we can also then pass on that skill. Is this something I'm choosing because it benefits me? What's the negative impact? And should I grow myself? Yes, but in a way that I can also grow other people. How am I inspiring others through growing myself? Sometimes that's sports, but the difference in that little nuance right there in love and doing it for love for your neighbor is different. How am I growing to be a great soccer player because it'll inspire others to do it versus it's going to make me a lot of money? Well, if I inspire others, it'll even make me more money. That's the other side of it if I don't think about it. So love, guys, everything done in love. Allow creativity. Don't try to control the path. Allow them to go so they don't need to come into the work environment and have everything be so told to them and so mechanized. That's why AI is becoming so popular, because it just does what it is. And that's what we're training our kids to do. If we want value in them in the future, we've got to be able to think outside of the normal reasoning and stuff of that we've been taught, because now AI does that for us. Okay. Time is more valuable than money, and money should be managed, not seeked or valued. Okay. What should be seeked or valued is time. Okay. Because what it does in your business, what it does in your life, what it does in your future is you get rid of all the nonsense that is a waste of your time. Because if time's the most valuable thing in your life other than love, you learn to use your time efficiency all the time. Guess how we do that as parents? Well, we do it ourselves. Well, what is Stefan doing right now? He's working all day and he's running a business. He's showing his kids work ethic. And in this way, I'll refer to Christianity, not in how he's doing it, but in my way that I do it, is work is worship. This is what I've been called to do, guys. What I do for work as an entrepreneur is what I've been called to do. It is the greatest gift I give back to my creator or to the universe or to whatever created me, the energy, whatever you want to look at. Because why? Because that's all I have. All I have is the time on this planet. And on this time on the planet, the only thing I'm going to be remembered for mostly is how much I loved someone. Maybe they'll remember how much money I had, but I guarantee you, we do not remember the richest person 200 years ago. We do not remember the richest person 300 years ago. We do not remember them but we do remember the most loving people 200 years later. We do remember the people that use their time most efficiently and their businesses most efficiently to make impact on the world. We do remember them. Or their position if they were a king or queen. We call Peter the Great. Why? Economic greatness. He still had slavery, but that's a whole other topic. But we do these things. It's important for us to know. So what would I say? Why Gorilla Brave? Why all of it? Because as entrepreneurs, we get lost. Sometimes we're stuck between our old life and our new life that's starting to emerge, and we don't know how to resurrect ourselves into our new life that's being called upon us as an entrepreneur. So that's all of it. I know it because I deal with it, and I've just gone through it. I wasn't sure that I wanted to do Gorilla Brave. I wasn't sure I wanted to go through the effort and the life that it took to be an entrepreneur on a global level again. But I will tell you, I have a lot of time left, hopefully, and I want to love the world around me, and I've got a lot to give, and God gave me a lot and gave me a lot of skills, stacked them in me. So I'm here to share it, guys. I'm here to learn from everyone in the audience just as much as I'm willing to give. Because every podcast, every episode, every bit of time I spend on this, people are like, oh, you spend all this time on it, you don't make a single dollar on the podcast. Correct. Every bit of dollars that any of the podcasts comes close to making goes right back into the podcast. Correct. It's got to stay alive. It costs a lot of money to keep this thing running. So yeah, no, I do it for free. Why? Because my value is I get to grow myself. And by essence of growing myself, I'm also growing the world, and I'm doing it in a public forum. So I love you guys. Stefan, anything you want to say based on what I just said?
I thought that was very inspiring. I appreciate it. I can tell that you're speaking from the heart. So I think it's a bit where I come from in terms of, I don't know, giving love, and people jokingly call me a Greek grandmother because I cook in large amounts and feed people since I've been, in my 20s, teenage years. And I can just give you two examples. Twice a year still, I basically make about 20 gallons of brisket chili, and I serve it on my front driveway for Halloween, and I still do that here down in Tampa. And I did it recently up in for a charity event for a friend of mine who lost his wife for, we do a tournament, racket sport tournament. And I did 20 gallons of chili last month, and I got to tell you, people really enjoy that. And I do that purely, look, promotion of my brand, sure, but because I enjoy it, and I like when people are happy eating my food. And I think you get a lot of joy out of that, right? And I think I get a lot of joy when people taste the products that I make, and they're like, "You really created this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, like, this is really good." And I'm like, I like that. That makes me feel good. So I would say, it's been nice talking to you, eh? If you or your partners or anyone who's listening to the podcast have an interest in our business, I have to be honest with myself. I am absolutely thinking about a partnership opportunity, someone who's an operator who might want to get involved. I'm open to having conversations like that. With that said, I think I've created something pretty interesting. I think I've gotten to a point where it's real, but how do we get it to the next step, right? That's where I'm at right now. So I think I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely be in touch with you, and I have some thoughts for you or some ideas for you. And there's some other individuals in Florida that I know that I used to work with that are between things that might be interested in opportunity for sure. I want to anchor this for the audience. Lastly, when I refer to Michael Jackson, it's okay to step out a little bit, do your off the wall album, go back, do the Jacksons for a little bit, a Destiny tour or Triumph tour, whatever they did, and then get back into Thriller and actually then say, okay, I'm going solo. It's okay to break out of your families. It's okay to break out of your safe environments and become the star of the show. As long as it's not about your ego. If you're doing it to build businesses, to create jobs, to create a future where you start tying it to a greater purpose, a universal purpose, you can do great things at that point. If you just tie it to, I want to be independent and I want to make money, there's a lot of harder years in there that are unnecessary, guys. They're just unnecessary. And unfortunately, you cause a lot of hardship, heartache, and trauma to yourself if you don't see the greater purpose in what you're doing. It is a blessing. And how do I know? I've done it both ways. There's been some miserable years, guys, where I beat the crap out of myself. It's just the lens we look through. So, and the purpose we see in it. Love you guys. One more time, where can they find you online, Saucy Rascals?
www.saucyrascals.com, also on amazon.com and walmart.com.
Perfect. Guys, like, share everything Saucy Rascals. Order the 6-pack sampler, gift it, try it. Listen, and I'm dead serious if I'm going to say it, international business if you're in the hot sauce business. And guess what? If you're in the hot sauce business in America, you should find other entrepreneurs that are in the hot sauce business in America and figure out how to group your businesses together to do the international business, or form a co-op or collective business on an international level, where now you have an option of 50 hot sauces going internationally in crates and things like that. Hence why I was like, well, the only way to do this is if I have a collaboration. I might as well produce it and co-pack it also. And then I'm sending my own hot sauces that we were creating at the time, as well as everyone else's, in the containers. So think about it, guys. Someone out there I know will figure this out. So it's not for me. It's out there for you guys. All right. Love you guys. Like, share what Saucy Rascals is doing. Order their product. Try the 6-pack, like I said. If you like the show, like, share, comment on the episodes. It's algorithms, guys. We all know that the way they work, yet we shy off or think it's not cool to comment. Like, share the things. If you're getting the content from it, you're getting value out of it, the least you can do is free like it or comment on it. I get that all the time. I loved my episode, but would it be uncool if I comment on my episode? Who cares? Who else is going to root for you if you're not, right? And if your family's not going to comment on it, of course, tell them to comment on it. I don't know why that's looked at as bad, or public rooting is bad. But guys, let loose on it. It doesn't bother me. Make as many comments, blow it up as much as you want. I appreciate you thinking of me, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. So yes, like, share, comment, do whatever you guys want to do. Comment as much as you want. You want to say something needs to be done better, criticize, we can do that too. I'm all game. That's what being an entrepreneur is. So I love you guys. Keep liking, share it, follow Saucy Rascals. Thank you, Stefan, for your time. I really appreciate it today. I grew a lot today through this episode, and I look forward to continuing to tell your story for sure. Guys, we're out. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we're out. I love you. Peace.